In episode number 302 of the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, we cover GameStop's potential buyout and what this could mean for the future of the video game company.
We also have the resurrection of Lucifer's latest season. About damn time. We only had to wait 3 days, and here he is again.
A television show on AMC that you appeared in, Emperor Kelli, Comic Book Men is being canceled by AMC, so we're going to cover that and your appearance on the show.
And our comic book highlight this week is Batman number 49, as told by Daniel, because I haven't caught up yet, and you're going to spoil it for me. Thank you.
All of this and so much more on today's episode. Hello and welcome to the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week, ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I am Darth Vader Daniel.
And I am the almighty Emperor Kelli.
And this is our, last week we had Scott on from Lazy Gaming Guys, helping fill in as a guest, because we had to go out of town, and instead of giving you no episode, thankfully the Lazy Gaming Guys lent us Scott for a week so that we could have something for 301, which released last Sunday. So this is the first time we're both back after our milestone episode of number 300.
Oh, I thought you were going to say after a great vacation. I was like, yeah, I know. But yes, it was a great milestone. Our Brokeheads really came out. We had an awesome episode. If you guys haven't heard it, you can go back and listen. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. We do have a great show for you today as well.
So kicking off our news this week, according to Reuters, GameStop is considering a buyout through private equity firms as made up by Sycamore Partners.
That sounds shady.
It kind of is.
So Sycamore previously acquired Hot Topic and Staples. So Sycamore is just acquiring our childhood, essentially.
Yeah, what these companies are doing, and this was explained by Purple Swordfish on one of his streams about 2 months back, and from what I understood is that a lot of these companies either cannot get a loan from banks or have already maxed out their loan through their bank. So what these firms do is they come in and they give them the loan that they need at incredibly high rates, at rates that are almost impossible to pay back, essentially. So that's what happened to Toys R Us, and similar firms are what are buying up Staples, Hot Topic, and now GameStop, which is considering that buyout. This doesn't mean that they're going to have that same deal that Toys R Us did, but it's more like everyone should be cautious about this deal.
Oh, Toys R Us.
I do like that people act now like, oh, why my childhood is going away. It's like, yeah, you stopped shopping there.
Yeah,
you started shopping online. That's what happened to Toys R Us. And then they made bad business decisions as well. But
yes. It was more than just that. But Bye Bye Baby is gone too. I love that store also.
Were they owned by Toys R Us? I didn't know that.
They're the same.
With GameStop.
I'm sorry, not Bye Bye Baby. Babies R Us.
Oh, okay,
Babies
that's way different.
It's just like the same thing.
I was like, they ran Bye Bye Baby way better. So GameStop, I don't know if you've been to one in ever lately.
Not since I met you.
Jesus, that's a long time. So
no, I haven't been to one in several years.
They have, probably since I quit GameStop, but they now have huge sections of different merch aside from just video games. So what they did is, and I remember I was working at the time when they started introducing the statues, the Funko Pops, and very slowly the t-shirts. So they were eating into this wall space that was used for video games, cases, new games, and DLC, of course, all the cards. And they started saying, okay, you need to make a section of, and it started really started seeing that with the Toys to Life, like Skylanders, Disney Infinity, where all of that section, those toys got taken out and got replaced by these things that were sold by ThinkGeek. GameStop bought up ThinkGeek, which was originally an online store, which was doing really well, and they sold things that GameStop did not. They sold that merch that they wanted to get into and start building into because it's the same demographic. It's the same kind of people that are buying these things. So they started making ThinkGeek stores as well as making every GameStop kind of like a mini ThinkGeek. So you started seeing whole walls of Funko Pops. You started seeing tons of t-shirts. You can still see all of this stuff, and the video games kind of being reduced and pushed less and less to this, more and more to the side into smaller sections. And because of that, they probably have ran into some of that trouble financially. I don't fault them for trying to diversify because their numbers were going down as far as video game sales, used game sales. And I think a lot of that is a victim of their programs and pressuring pre-orders and pressuring the Game Informer sales, the rewards card. And over the years, they lost a lot of really good employees because of this numbers game. Because no matter how good of an employee you were, if you did not meet your numbers, you were gone. Yeah. And I saw that happen throughout the 8+ years that I worked there of, hey, what happened to this person? So that customer relationship that they had built with the manager, with the SGA, with everyone, with the part-timer, was going away and it wasn't staying. So they were constantly getting a rotation of new employees because the next idiot I want to work at a video game store. You play games all day. So
yes, that's what you do.
So they kind of lowered, in a way, that program a little bit, but it's too little too late at that point. They have already lost over the years a lot of those employees that were really solid. So I do think it's a combination of different things. Me, for an example, I was good at it. I sold numbers, I sold pre-orders, but I didn't enjoy it. And then once I really went full time with this comic shop gig, it's like, well, this is I have more control over so many more things, and I'm much happier. And that was the end result or the end decision for me. So what do you think of GameStop's plan right now to, well, I guess just sell off and it didn't really pan out as far as ThinkGeek?
Right. They're going to try the thing about ThinkGeek and them, people go to GameStop to buy games. They buy used games. They go to trade in their games. That's what they go there for, right? I mean, Of course. So by bringing in all this ThinkGeek stuff, I think some of it might be impulse buy, but very little. You don't have somebody going and saying, I'm going to get the new Legend of Zelda game for $50, $60. Oh, look, you also have a Zelda statue. Let me buy that as well. Because your funds are tied up at that point. You're going online to ThinkGeek and saying, hey, this is really cool. I now have the extra funds because I just played this game. Let me purchase it.
One of the things, too, that we saw is as comic shop workers, it's like, okay, is this going to be a thing that we now have to worry about because there's GameStops all over the fucking place? If they have the exact same product that comic shops have, is that going to eat into our profits? Turns out it didn't, because a lot of the people, the regulars, the ones that go into comic shops to go for this specialty product, don't recognize GameStop as that place for those things. To them, it's still that video game store. To them, it's where you go and trade in, as you mentioned. And even the people that did work there, there wasn't a consistency with the product, with the statues, with the availability. It wasn't focused on like they had initially long time ago with their video games. So because of that, it suffered. It didn't really foster like it did before. And even with the Funko Pops, they're constantly discounting those things because they need to get rid of them. They need to make room for the next wave of Funko Pops, as opposed to, them taking like that Toys R Us mentality, which was one of the issues as well with that company, is they carried everything. So GameStop is also carrying a bunch of Pops, whereas comic shops hopefully are just ordering the stuff that sells and doing special orders for things that, people might enjoy or might like. So now that's going to happen as well with comics, that they're now doing subscription services. It's like that's going to be another thing that isn't going to be handled as well or as focused.
That's unfortunately the thing that you see with a lot of businesses, and that people fall into the trap of, is they try to spread themselves too thin. They say, oh, this is big, let me jump in it too. No, you're a specialty store, and this is your specialty. And if they had gotten somebody in there who said, yes, we're just going to, we're going to get some quality employees who are going to build relationships with these people who are going to, because, gaming is a huge thing. People come back for different sequels that come out, different games. If you have somebody you trust and they say, hey, you've been buying this, I think you're going to like this one as well, then they're going to buy that too. Yeah. And then if they had just focused on their games, like you just said, they would still be successful. They wouldn't be in this situation now. But they were so focused, like you said, on those numbers, on that profit, that they just stretched themselves so thin. They could have still bought ThinkGeek and let ThinkGeek do what it was doing.
Offer more of those things on GameStop.com. Leave it there for now. But yeah, I think it is growing a little bit too quick, and we'll see what ends up happening. Obviously, I never want to see...
I never want to step foot in that place again.
Like, I haven't supported GameStop since I left, but I also haven't really bought games since I left GameStop.
Not
That's one
really,
of the...
but... I mean, and again, the appeal of GameStop at the time was you could, get the newer games, but then you could get the used games. And now Best Buy does that. And if you're buying a new game, you can get it from Target for less than you can get it, from GameStop. You use your Target Red Card, and then they discount that shit all the time. The specialty systems, you could only get it at GameStop because you could pre-order that. You can do it everywhere now, And so I see why they went the direction that they did. It's not a direction I would have pushed them in, and ultimately, I mean, as we can see, it hurt them.
So something that is not hurting Paul Kelli is Brian Michael Bendis' run so far on Superman. A lot of people were worried that he was going to change things too much like he did in the Marvel Universe, or he was going to get a little too wild. And word on the street from people that are reading it, and I haven't read it myself, I'm waiting for the trade paperback for Man of Steel, but I may jump in with Superman and maybe Action Comics, is that he's actually handling Superman extremely well. One of my subscribers was just telling me this week that he's written like Superman. He's not written like the other Marvel characters that he would write. He said that Bendis would often fall into the trap of all of his characters would sound the same and use similar slang. But with Superman, it sounds like Superman. It feels like him. There's action in every single issue. So every issue is constantly moving and changing, and it still feels like a DC universe and a DC character. And that's something else that people were saying, that maybe he would use the Marvel method with DC, which does not fit their mold.
Right.
But it turns out it's actually working out really well. And one of his latest resurrections or additions to the In Continuity Now DC universe is coming up very soon.
So, Superman 4's main film villain, Nuclear Man, will make his way onto DC continuity with August 8th's Superman #2, as of course written by Brian Michael Bendis.
Have you ever watched any of those old Superman movies? Nuclear Man was originally supposed to be Bizarro, and through changes, I think it was post-editing, maybe they had to refilm some things, but they introduced Nuclear Man, which was essentially like a superpowered, made up of nuclear power being that Superman had to fight. And it also, was a commentary on nuclear war and nuclear missiles and everything. So that was Nuclear Man, and it's notoriously, not liked by many fans, and it was the final Superman movie from that particular franchise. So Bendis announced on DC's Instagram with, quote, "So when they first announced that I was taking over Superman, Nick Darrington did a sketch of Nuclear Man from Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. People started challenging me to put him in my run. Challenge accepted," end quote.
Is he Barney from How I Met Your Mother? Challenge accepted. Is this him with the weird little in on his shirt?
Yes, the star, yeah.
That looks horrible. Who is this man?
That is Nuclear Man, and you're about to see him in comics.
Listen, good for him. Make it happen. I would not be able to do anything with this guy, but okay.
I love Nick Darrington, too. Amazing artist. So if we can have Nick Darrington do Nuclear Man, even if it's for a couple of pages, it's already an improvement on Superman 4. Like, this is something that people were mad about. They were saying, why are you putting that? You're making that count in main DC continuity. And it's like, yeah, and you could only go up from here.
It's already the lowest it can go.
It's going to be the greatest version of Nuclear Man ever, or to date, I guess, until Paul Dini gets his hands on him.
So, counting Superman 4's comic book adaptation, this will be this Nuclear Man's second comic book appearance. Because nobody likes him.
Poor Nuclear Man.
You know what? I want Brian Michael Bendis to do Condiment King. Somebody made Kite Man great. Who made Kite Man great?
That was Tom King.
Tom King. Listen, you just keep going up in my eyes.
Now, Kite Man was pretty great in his own way before.
No, he wasn't. He didn't do anything.
He was a silly villain that we can laugh at.
Yeah,
like, that's
and
greatness.
Now, every time you hear Kite Man, you go, oh, Kite Man.
You remember there's one, oh man, the name escapes me of this villain, but it's like a blanket villain in the Batman universe.
Like
what was his
Quilt
name?
Man
Quilt Man, that's what it was. And Scott Snyder's idea was always to make it where he had a quilt made out of different human skin, like different pieces. And he's like, that's what I wanted to do, like really reinvent the character and fit him into Gotham. It's like, yeah, that sounds like someone that would fit in Gotham. Joker's tearing his face off and killing people left and right. That guy's wearing human skin, Perfect. Yep, that's Gotham.
Well, didn't Joker like sew people together and draw a map on human skin at one point?
Yes, yeah, you're right.
See, it would be great.
See, that's even more screwed up. Quilt Man would be tame. Oh man, I forgot about that scene. Jesus, it's like something out of the Crossed comic book. Holy crap. So this is one that people have been making a lot of fun of. Completely lied. It's in the opposite direction of human bodies being sewn together. I was excited for it, and most people are like, what the hell is this? And I'm like, what the hell is this? This is great. The Star Trek and Transformers animated series will be crossing over in a new limited comic book miniseries from IDW Publishing. Both cartoons in comics. This is comics, everyone. This is the magic of comic books.
This is brilliant. I'm sure people were like, what the hell with Star Trek and Green Lantern? And that was pretty cool. And now you get two things in space. What if they ride in a Transformer?
Oh, they
like
better.
A spaceship.
Or the Enterprise is a fucking Transformer. Transform the whole fucking time. We just spoiled that miniseries for you.
It's spoiled. We're going to find that out at the end of the first issue.
Did you ever see any of either one of the cartoons?
Nope.
The Star Trek one is cheesier only because the budget was noticeably lower, and the animation like repeats all the time. It's got everything that you would expect from that era. And Transformers was I would say the production value was much higher,
of course,
but they are two properties that are light enough. Aside from Optimus Prime fucking dying, you never saw that really in the Star Trek animated series. But the cartoon for Star Trek was handled like it was the then canceled show, because they didn't have the live action episodes anymore, and they brought back all the cast for this cartoon, and it was essentially their next season of Star Trek. They can do crazier things with it, like more aliens, bigger aliens, and you see that in the cartoon. And I don't know if it was to make toys or what, or if it's because they had this freedom now to go crazy with it. And every now and again, I do play it on there. And I would say, like, if you enjoy He-Man, if you enjoy Transformers, like this Star Trek animated series, although it is aimed at an older audience, it's not goofy like those. And as far as, like, we need to get the bad guy, it's like, no, they sit there and they ponder and they think, like in Star Trek, but as cartoons.
Let's drink some tea.
So I was so excited when I saw this announcement, and good for IDW for doing this, because you would never have seen this particular crossover otherwise.
Whoever is thinking up these things in IDW is amazing, because they're saying, what are our readers nostalgic about? What are their favorite things? Let's smush them together. And we're over here like eating them up like Saturday morning cereal.
This new miniseries is now in your latest previews catalog. I know if you're a subscriber at your comic shop by now, if you're a longtime Brocade, you have that in your box. You can pre-order it. It comes out September 2018. Yes, we're down on it. We're going to review issue number 1, Kelly.
Of course we will. And it'll be amazing. And the Enterprise is a Transformer. Spoiler alert.
So here's your favorite version of something. You changed your worldview when you saw this little video.
What?
You did. Your admittance was very clear.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So music icon, Sting. Do you like Sting?
Yes. Is he Kiss from a Rose on the Grave?
Close.
No, that's
Desert
Seal.
Rose.
Desert Rose. Yes, I love that song. Okay.
He will be writing a foreword for the Hellblazer 30th anniversary collection. Why is he writing a foreword?
Because Hellblazer is Constantine, and Constantine is based off of Sting. Wow!
It all came back around, like life completed itself.
In Desert Rain, I'm Constantine, and I'm writing a foreword.
So in the video that I actually showed you, Sting wore Constant Sting's, I mean, can we just call him that?
Constant Stings. Okay.
He wore Constant Sting's signature trench coat, which is a nod to him being, of course, the inspiration for the character's look.
You want to know how that happened? Somebody went up and said, "Hey, Sting, put this on for this video." And he was like,
"Here's $200."
Yeah, he said, "Okay." He doesn't know who the fuck Constantine is.
Originally written by Alan Moore, who of course did The Great Watchmen, The Amazing, The Killing Joke, Constantine is the longest running and most successful Vertigo lead character.
That's weird, because Constantine, comic book Constantine, he sucks.
You should read, I should get this Hellblazer compilation and have you read original Hellblazer. Like, you might like Alan Moore's he co-created the character, so why not?
Or I might not, and I only like him from the TV show.
You can still imagine it's literally Sting running around in the DC universe because it is. It is Sting. Like, he inspired the look for it is. Like, now if you look at Constantine in the Rebirth comic books, looks nothing like Sting, really. But you look at him in those old comics, it's like, holy shit, can he sue for that?
Yeah, how did he get away with that?
I don't know. There must have been some agreement by now because he's doing a fucking forward for the comic. He's got to get a cut for it, right?
He must. He must get something. I don't know. Does Samuel L. Jackson get anything for being Eye Patch McGee or whatever his name is from Marvel?
Ultimate Nick Fury.
I like Eye Patch McGee better.
I believe they actually approached him ahead of time and said, "Is this cool?" And as in, like, we won't pay you if and he was like, "Yeah, that's fine." And that's when they ran with it. But now that he's in Marvel's cinematic universe, I think he does get to pay some chunk of change for all the DVDs, the Blu-rays, the action figures, the T-shirts with Nick Fury on it.
Must be nice.
Must be nice. Just like Jack Nicholson got it for the Joker after Batman.
Oof.
This collection is going to feature select issues from Hellblazer's run, and it releases on October 30th. Should also be in the latest previews catalog.
Of course, they would release it on Halloween, right before Halloween.
Genius. Something I can push and hopefully sell a couple copies of.
There you go. I still won't like it, but I will sing more Desert Rose. What else does Sting sing? Do we even know? Is it only Desert Rose?
Field of Gold?
Oh.
Fields of Gold?
That one?
Yeah, it's got to be a Constantine song, though.
Bunch of demons. Is that it? Those are the only two Sting songs I know, I think.
The only two you should really know.
I always confuse Sting with Kiss, but wasn't there a WWE guy named Sting
who
wore the
makes
same
sense.
makeup as Kiss?
Yes.
And I was very confused.
He actually wore the same makeup as the Crow. And one of his first appearances in the ring, he pretty much has the Crow's makeup. And he got in trouble, so that's when they changed it. And now he has, like, the very different, like, it's not the Crow, it's something else.
It's Sting. It's Sting. Does he still wrestle? Does anybody still wrestle?
I believe WWE is still going.
Still a thing?
Well, now what they're doing is a lot of UFC people like Ronda Rousey, who lost her belt in UFC, lost her fight in which, like, this is her comeback. And, like, I remember on YouTube, she was like, if this doesn't work out, I'll probably just kill myself. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Then she lost. I was like, oh my God, I hope she doesn't really kill herself. Like, there's so much she has got so many fans that,
right.
You know, she hopefully will bounce back. And she did. Like, she did more movies. She was in The Expendables.
Yes, I remember that.
And now she's actually in WWE. So a lot of the post or UFC athletes will head over to WWE, and then some of those WWE athletes will go to UFC. Like Brock Lesnar actually went to UFC, and he was a champion for a while, and that was one of the biggest things. It's like, our wrestlers real fighters? And he came in and, like, wrecked so many his division, so many fighters. And it's like, yeah, they are also, they're not just showmen. They're athletes as well. They're actual fighters.
It surprises me that people still watch WWE even though they know that it's scripted.
I think that's a lot of people who compare it to comic books. And if you go on Twitter, you will see that a lot of, like, huge comic heads are huge wrestling people too. And that's because it's all in that type of fantasy. It's a storytelling. It's the setup. There's very similar features and appeals to both worlds that you can see how it would be the same fans.
Love stories?
There should be. There are, like, there's couples in wrestling.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Like,
and then, like, the girlfriends pull each other's hairs of their wrestler guys, and that's
why?
all happens. Because in the 90s and the 2000s, they would have strip matches where the one would lose if they took off all their clothes except for, like, the bra and panties, and it was because the demographic at the time was largely male.
Wait, but why are the women pulling each other's hair? Like, did they piss each other off? Or...
because their men were fighting, like, in the next championship thing, or they had just fought and one of them had lost, so they're out there defending their man, or they're also wrestlers as well, which was very common too. So they would actually also wrestle, and it would be another reflection or a rematch in a way of the two men's, big debacle.
You know what women would really do? They would sit down and have a cup of coffee and talk about how their men were stupid for fighting and wrestling each other.
That is so untrue.
That's so true.
You are a liar.
That's what I would do. If you ever got in a fight with another man, I am not fighting his significant other.
How many women don't get along at your workplace that still don't get along and still it's fucking junior high with you?
I mean, a shit ton of women, sure.
And is that
But-
more often than men who also get into fights? Do they also make it into high school as often or at a large as large a rate as women?
Listen, women band together when men are being stupid.
Men band together whenever. Like, they can fight and then have a beer afterward.
Yes, you can. Women fight and then we hate each other for the
rest of your life.
Yeah, for the rest of our life.
That was my whole point.
For forever. It's not very good. Women are not nice. I mean, some can be, but most are not nice. I have some people that I still don't like in my life. Thanks for taking me down that road, Daniel. Now I got all this bitterness welling up inside.
You had questions.
Yeah, but...
And I had answers. So the box office was very bitter. I'm trying here.
Oh, you did well.
Very bitter with Solo, the Star Wars story that ended up underperforming and performed lower than even Joe Whedon's Justice League from last year, was it? Yeah, it was last year.
Last year. It was before Leah was born. Remember, I was super pregnant. So according to Collider, Lucasfilms and Disney have suspended their Star Wars anthology because of Solo's Star Wars box office performance. I can get out words, I promise.
We had talked about the rumored, what we wanted to see was the Jabba the Hutt sexy movie.
Yes.
Now that's not happening.
Jabba.
Yoda's Solo movie that they were considering, now on pause.
That would have been all CGI. We don't care about that anyway.
But the next two were rumored to be Obi-Wan Kenobi and Boba Fett, which are now on hold. They waited too long in that fucking Boba Fett movie. That should have been one of their first ones.
That should have been the first one. Would Ewan McGregor play Obi-Wan again?
He did express interest. Yeah, he said he wanted to come back for that.
Would he sing like a Moulin Rouge?
He never sang in Star Wars, no.
But that would be even better if they made it like Moulin Wars. all the hookers are bringing out lightsabers and fighting people.
So how much exactly did Solo bring in for Disney?
Less than Justice League. Let me drive that home just a little bit. So after 4 weeks, Solo brought in a measly $192.8 million domestically, compared to their other anthology film, Rogue One, which brought in $535 million in its domestic run.
So that's something that people do point out, like, wait, it's not off your box office, it's not out of theaters yet, like, it's still going to make more, yes, but most movies make a chunk of their money in those first couple of weeks. And that's why you'll see a lot of studios immediately greenlight a movie after like the opening weekend, because then they know, like, okay, projection wise, we're going to make at least this much next week, and it's going to be paying itself off by then. If you're a studio head and you're looking at these numbers here, where it's well less than half of what Rogue One brought in, and it's like, how much more could Solo possibly bring in now? And it's going to be in in theaters for a couple more weeks. You're going to say, hold on, something went wrong. Let's put everything on hold and instead not ruin the rest of the Star Wars movies that we really bought all of this for, which is the installation trilogy, the episodes.
I think there was a whole lot that went wrong with this movie, and I'm not even a Star Wars fan. First thing I feel is that they didn't really market it well. I feel like I didn't see anything about this movie. There was no talking about it. There was no hype for it. And I work with a lot of Star Wars nerds, and nobody cared.
Does it need marketing, though? It's Star Wars. Like, these nerds knew that this was coming.
Of course they did. But at the same time, yeah, I don't know. They probably should have marketed it a little bit.
A lot of people
more than they did.
They're mainly blaming Last Jedi because of how polarizing it was with fans.
Really?
A lot of fans, including like my manager, who's a huge Star Wars fan, he did not like Last Jedi. He did not go opening weekend for Solo, and I was shocked. I was like, are you kidding me? He's like, yeah, I mean, I'll see it eventually, but I'm like, that's crazy. Like, he's such a big Star Wars fan, but he's like, yeah, it's just the last one. I don't know. So it feels like a lot of fans had that same, like, Last Jedi left a bad taste in my mouth. I don't really want to see the next one. And that surprised me especially, but I guess it does make sense, although it's not even an episode installation. It's like an off story. So to me, I was thinking, like, if you liked Rogue One, maybe that should be your barometer to whether or not you should see Solo, because that's an anthology film. That's in that line of movies. For me, I didn't like Rogue One, so I didn't see Solo. That's why I ended up passing on it. And he eventually did see Solo, and he actually did like it. So I think that's the main thing is Last Jedi was many people are really, really still pissed off at that. It just went on Netflix. We were playing it at the shop, and these comments I heard from these different customers, I'm like, man,
don't play
everyone's
that
got
again.
an opinion. Oh no, I kept playing it.
Do you think Solo would have made more money if they got, I forgot his name.
Harrison Ford?
Yes, if they got him to play him again. Like, fuck it, he's old, whatever. But get him to play him.
Well, that's something else, actually, that people were bringing up is this kid is not Harrison Ford, and he never will be. It's like, no, of course not, and that's never going to be Lando. And it's like, we get it, but, Ewan McGregor did okay as Obi-Wan. People, he played
Ewan
him more
McGregor
often
was
than
great.
the other guy.
But that's because we were blind back then with episodes 1, 2, and 3. We didn't care about things.
I do like the people
we didn't have the internet.
Are saying they should make a Darth Vader trilogy instead. And it's like, that's what episode 1 through 6 was about. Like, it's a Vader story. Just like 9 years of Green Lantern from Jeff Johns is Sinestro's story. Like, you've got 6 Vader films.
Right. No, but they want Vader because he's cool. You know what we need? We need an Emperor Palpatine story. Where's my trilogy?
That's right. That's something that that was one of the comments. Like, Snoke, they never really revealed him. They never said anything about him. It's like they never said anything about the Emperor in episodes 4 through 6. And then they gave you answers, and it was in the prequels.
But we didn't have the internet back then, and we didn't care. Now that there's more people, you're going, yeah, you're right.
Some people are saying that these are coming out too often, so like that nostalgia trick isn't working because it's you're going to get it every year. There are so many factors in this that is fascinating to me as like I wouldn't call myself a non-Star Wars fan, but like compared to everyone else I know, it's like, yeah, I'm not as heavy into this.
Right.
Like I saw Last Jedi and I'm like, yeah, it was fine. It was a Star Wars movie to me. Like I'm like, that was Star Wars. But because it didn't fit everyone's theories and who Snoke was, and now there's a petition to remake The Last Jedi.
What? They just came out with it. Oh my god. So let me ask you, getting off track just a little bit, if there was an Emperor Palpatine movie, what would happen in it?
I mean, I think whatever you put in it will be acceptable.
Well,
like it could just be
obviously.
you figuring out and thinking about your next meal. And you would be happy to just have that be your movie.
That would be great. Like me watching some Netflix, me watching some The Bachelorette, which I'm very behind on.
So it has nothing to do with Star Wars. It's just a reality TV movie.
I want it done in MTV Jersey Shore style, where you pull me off to the side sometimes, and I'm like, it was just a boring day. I was just, had to catch up on my TV shows, been working all day.
Did you say
running
Jersey
the
Shore?
Galaxy, yes.
You know how old I am? I went to Real Life.
Real Life? Real Life? No.
Maybe it was True Life. MTV's True Life.
I did like True Life. I did watch some of those. Where it's like, True Life, I don't like my nose. And I was like, oh, shit.
I don't know if that's it.
there was the one where
The Real World. That's what I'm thinking of. The
real
fucking Real World.
No, True Life was a thing, too. Do you remember? And it was people with problems, and there were like 3 of them, and it jumped between them.
That I didn't see. So that must have been after Real World.
And then there was, like, this one lady I remember. She didn't like her nose. Like, it gave her so much anxiety and stuff. So she got a nose job. And she's like, my nose job is great. And then it cuts to, like, 3 weeks later, and she's like, my nose is still horrible. I'm going to have a baby. That'll make me feel good about myself. And I was like, oh, my God. Even 14-year-old me was just like, oh, no. That's not going to do anything.
The closest I ever got to anything like that was watching Maury as a kid and like seeing the person that's like afraid of balloons or weird shit. Like that was always what, like now that I look at it, I'm like, they were exploiting these fucking people.
Yeah.
But it's
half
like
that shit was probably made up.
And Maury was always like, it's just a balloon, and they're freaking out, and he's like, look at it, and it's like, Maury, stop getting close to her with that.
They die, and he's like,
have a heart attack. Yeah,
they would.
Get it canceled, just like To Catch a Predator.
I loved that show. I wish it would come back.
It kind of did for one season, Hansen versus Predator, and it hasn't come back since.
Oh well. All that Patreon money or Kickstarter money, whatever it was, gone.
So the underperformance of Star Wars is not slowing Disney down any. They still have cash to burn.
Transition back into that real easily. So according to Deadline, Disney has upped its offer to acquire 21st Century Fox's entertainment assets to $71.3 billion in cash and stock.
So this is $19 billion more than the offer Fox accepted last year from Disney, and 10% more than Comcast's $65 billion a few weeks back.
Who's got all these billions of dollars? For real.
Disney, they raised the fucking turkey legs by $1 and they can do this fucking larger bid.
And people still buy those turkey legs all day long.
Of course, they flipped when they tried to take them away.
Toy Story Land just opened, by the way.
And that's going to help pay for fucking
of course it
Fox's
is.
properties.
Of course it is. So analysts expected Disney to match Comcast's offer, but instead they went to infinity and beyond.
And that's a marker for episode 400 highlights.
And this was our show this week. Signing off.
And then a high note.
I got a hint on the high. I can't top that this episode.
No, we're going to go down now.
Yeah.
Hold on tight, Broquette Core. There was a quote here from Rupert Murdoch, who is Fox's executive chairman, who said, quote, we are extremely proud of the businesses we have built at 21st Century Fox and firmly believe that this combination with Disney will unlock even more value for shareholders, that's the key word right there, as the new Disney continues to set the pace at a dynamic time for our industry, end quote.
You want to know what happened after this quote?
He got paid $1 million by Disney just for saying that. $2 million.
That, and then he walked out of the room and into another room and handed Comcast some money. Like, hey, thanks for driving up the bid.
They got half of whatever was going up.
Yep, and Comcast is okay with it. Listen, we've talked about this a lot. Our brokeheads know our opinion on this, and that is we don't like it.
Right.
For a majority of different reasons.
Correct. Yep.
But it still has to go through the board who's going to say Disney has the majority, right? If they do this, so there's still hope.
There is some hope. I know Bobby actually pointed out on our Discord channel, which you can find the link for in today's episode description, that the way that they balanced it out, and he said it was actually a big blow for Disney, is they took away the sport assets from Disney, which would have been like a bigger, more valuable and lucrative property than the fucking X-Men and the Fantastic Four. So instead they said, okay, for this to be a fair deal, you can't have this sports portion of it. Instead, this has to go to other partners or to Fox as a standalone. So that was one thing that he pointed out, that it's actually probably what they were mainly aiming for, because it is worth more.
Well, yeah, because I heard somewhere ESPN is not making the money right now.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, of course they're going to want that to try and get the money. You know, they have the huge ESPN sports complex. They're going to want to make money off that franchise. And if it's not...
And that's how Disney operates. The whole reason they bought Marvel Entertainment was because they had the girl sales pat down, right? They had princesses, and you knew from the parks.
Oh,
even.
yeah.
But they didn't have that thing for boys. They didn't have that sales thing that they can sell to, 50 or 49% of the population out there. So they got Marvel Comics, and holy shit, like, it's been very lucrative for them. So that's how they operate. If they're not doing well in sports, they'll instead buy something that will make the money and kind of fulfill those weaknesses that they do have to make them stronger as a company overall and satisfy the shareholders.
Of course. I know we continue to talk about how we don't like this because some of the movies that we have, we will no longer see, right? There's a lot of stuff that we're not going to get. My hope is if this deal goes through, yes, we're not going to get these things from 21st Century Fox, but that doesn't mean that somebody else can't take the reins and step up and say, we need to continue making these type of movies. Let's do it over here.
Yeah, and one thing I did say on Twitter, and this is moving forward with today's episode and forward, is that I understand that a lot of the Brokehead Core members do like the MCU movies. So because of that, we're not going to, I guess, needlessly bash the Marvel movies. I mean, we'll mention it if it's a part of the news story, but I know a lot of you do enjoy those, and we definitely don't want to, I guess, upset the Brokehead Core in a way. I know a lot of you have said, like, no, that's your guys' personality. It's like, sure, and you'll still get it on Twitter. Like, rest assured that I'm calling people hashtag Marvel sheep and going off about the Marvel movies on there. So if you want that, you're going to get your dose on Twitter. But as far as the podcast itself, not for us, not our thing. Hopefully this will help us grow more.
We will mature.
And not lose as many audience members.
Yes.
If you are a Marvel sheep, don't follow us on Twitter. You will not like that.
You can follow me. I don't post on Twitter.
And the difference is, like, Marvel sheep isn't just anyone that likes the MCU. Marvel sheep is someone that throws reasoning out the window and will not openly admit their bias towards Disney and against everyone else. Mm-hmm. One example that I ran into is the Morbius thing, where people are like, why the Morbius movie? That doesn't need to exist, and it's produced by Sony. They just announced that Jared Leto is actually going to star as Morbius. And much like Tom Hardy and his Venom movie, I had no interest until they cast Tom Hardy. I had no interest in Morbius until they cast Jared Leto. Now I'm going to be their opening weekend for both of Sony's movies, not Black and Silver, which is Black Cat and Silver Sable, unless they fucking, cast Rachel Weisz next. Like, I'll be there opening weekend for that too. So they're making some moves that I'm like, that's fucking interesting. I'll be there opening weekend. But the Marvel sheep will still say, no, this doesn't make sense. They'll come up with all kinds of excuses to whatever Sony is doing, not right. What Disney's doing, though, perfect. Everything's right. Even though Spider-Man Homecoming, I promise, this is the only, anti-MCU thing I'm going to say this episode. Because, it's like a lid. Like, there's going to be some spillage. Is Homecoming changed Spider-Man so much to where he is a white Miles Morales. Like, that, there's so much there that isn't inherently Peter Parker. And it's different from the rest of the previous Spider-Man movies. That it's, only because of this unadmitted bias, that they will let that slide. But if Sony had made the exact same movie, even with fucking Iron Man, if Sony had made the exact same movie that is Homecoming, it would have had a 30% on Rotten Tomatoes, and people would have bashed the shit out of it and said, give it to Disney, let them make the movie. If the previous Ant-Man, which is shitty, and the new Ant-Man and the Wasp doesn't give me hope, and that's why I'm not seeing it, because I didn't like the first one, if that exact same movie had been made by Warner Brothers and it was a DC production, exact same fucking thing, that also would have had a 15% Rotten Tomato rating, and they would have bashed it for trying to be too much like Marvel. Insert insult here. And that is a Marvel sheep right there. They're those same ones that I know if I were to jump into an alternate dimension, I could show them footage of themselves contradicting themselves today. And I wish I had that fucking power. Like, that's the one thing. It's like, if this would change, you would not be saying this. That's not true. Let me show you. And then, disappear and show them, see? Just so that they can be like, oh. Well, I still don't think so.
So, my simpler explanation of a Marvel sheep, and it's a lot of Marvel fans, and part of the reason that I don't like discussing my
DC bias?
my non-preference towards the Marvel movies is the second that I tell people, and I've said this before on the podcast, that I don't like Marvel movies, I'm wrong. And they tell me why I'm wrong for having a preference towards something that I like, rather than just say, hey, everybody has an opinion. I really enjoy these movies.
See, and people try to flip that. It's like, well, no one, actually, very few people do. But they're like, well, you like DC. How come there's... It's like, well, because when we hammer this out and we argue, there's always a fallacy from their end. There's never, consistency. There's always contradictions. I'm like, this is the fucking difference. They don't think these things out. They never do. And I always have to point out contradictions left and right. And then it just ends up being like, well, I just don't want to talk about
Daniel,
this.
Twitter.
All right,
Twitter.
all right.
we have to. We'll sit here all day. This will become the why I dislike Marvel show.
That's the only MCU news, all right? Only MCU-related thing.
All right. Keep moving on. What's next?
You had mentioned if they had made a movie based on you. They did a whole episode, kind of.
They did a whole 5 minutes, but okay.
It is that's the Reasons I'm Broke episode. That's the Emperor Kelli episode. And that was that, unfortunately, they almost hit it. And it's not over. They could still pick it up from a different network. But after 96 episodes over 7 seasons, Kevin Smith's Comic Book Men show has been canceled by AMC.
The show followed comic book clerks in Pawn Star-style format, but through entertainment culture. Pawn Stars? Who watches Pawn Stars?
Well, shit ton of people.
Really?
Shit ton of people.
All right. If you don't know what Comic Book Men is and you do know what Pawn Stars is, it is the Pawn Stars of comic books.
Well, you were a part of it. Tell them what you did in episode. Let me see. I got it here.
Season 5, episode 9, Suburban Cowboys. My boss wants to see that episode, by the way, so you need to.
You should tell him to buy it so that it continues to be the most purchased episode, maybe. And they look like, why do people keep buying this? The Brokehead Core is why.
Palpa Kelli. So what it is it's a comic book shop in Red Bank, New Jersey, called The Secret Stash, run or owned by Kevin Smith, and then run by these guys, the comic book men.
Walt Flanagan, primarily.
Flanagan, yes. And so I was able to be on the show. I went in and I was attempting to sell a comic book. And then, of course, there's banter back and forth. And that was my portion of the show. But they do different things. They get people who are big in the industry, notable figures in the industry, to come in and they do silly different things. And sometimes are at conventions. And it's pretty much centered around comic books and comic book characters and comic book people in the industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. We watched. I've seen every single episode of the show, of the series. We were fans before you were on the show, and that's actually how you ended up on there, because we saw like, hey, do you want to sell something? Do you want to be on the show? Do you have something interesting? You and I both submitted our application, I guess you would say. And you were picked, of course. And one of the things that you tried to present was the first appearance of Harley Quinn, which is Batman Adventures number 12. And they said, well, we actually have a lot of Harley Quinn merchant or material this season. Do you have something else? We do want you to be on the show. So we're like, okay, what do we track down, or what do we try to find? And we ended up going with the Secret Wars issue, first appearance of Black Suit Spidey. And they're like, yep, that's perfect. That's great. And that ended up being what you brought, and we went over to Red Bank, and you watch the episode and you can see the whole transaction with Emperor Palpatelli.
Yeah, I've seen it once.
Yeah, we have it right here on the computer. Like, whenever you want to watch it. Okay. It's a good episode. I enjoyed it. I'm like,
I'm sure it's great, but then like I'm overly critical of myself.
And I was, you see me in the background, like in the bins. And when you watch it, though, like to me, when I was just concentrating on flipping, quote unquote, through the comics, it's like, oh, I wish Kelli would have said this, because I know you from the podcast, and they know you. But then when you watch the episode, it's like, oh, you know what? It came out fine. Like when I heard him, I'm like, Walt sounds really uninterested and flat. Like, what's going on? Maybe they're not going to use this. And then you watch the episode, it's like, oh, maybe I was just paying too much attention to it. And you watch it, and it's like, this actually came out really well, and it's funny. Ming Chen was right next to you, right? In the episode. Yeah,
Ming was great. And then, and we've talked about this on the show before, but it was a really cool experience. Yes, you know, the show was great when we watched it, but the experience of being able to go and, you know, we spent some time in New York. That was both our first time to New York City. Yeah. So going to see that, and then...
And Jersey.
Yep, and New Jersey, and, you know, going away on this big trip. It was kind of our first really big trip together, wasn't it? Where we went out of state and...
Yes. Had you been to Illinois before that?
Oh, you know what? We did go to Illinois for a wedding. No?
Scott's wedding?
I don't remember.
Scott's wedding was, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, and this episode came out about that time. So it might have been our very first like really big trip, and I do consider it pretty big because it's unfamiliar territory. Neither of us had been there.
Right.
Even if we had been to Illinois together before that, to me, it's not a huge trip because it's familiar to me. Like I understand and I know what's happening.
But, you know, we were fortunate. We know Tom Mum, who worked on the show. And so through that, we were able to go to poker night, and Ming was there. And I was just like, oh my God, this is so cool. And we had a lot of other cool experiences. I mean, I still have the picture on my phone of us with all the guys. And it's great to think back on that memory and to really kind of understand how television works. And yes, this is what you see on TV. But like you said, there's so much more that goes on behind the scenes. There's so much more that was said. You know, I was in there for half an hour, 45 minutes, and then it all came out and it was 5 minutes of the show.
My favorite was when we got there. Tom didn't know you were coming on the show. We were coming because he knew us before that because of Ann Bonny and Blue Juice Comics. We had and still purchased the latest comics from Blue Juice. But we show up there, and he's like, oh, I didn't know you were on the episode. I didn't know you were coming on the show. Because he's the head, you know, sound guy.
Producer, yeah.
And really controls a lot of the production that goes behind Comic Book Men and many other productions throughout the nation, throughout the world. So when he showed up, like, he was introduced, like, oh, yeah, I know them. And it's like, and they showed up on their own, like, through the
I didn't do anything.
Like, I didn't do anything. Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was really cool seeing, like, the round table where Kevin Smith sits and they all like discuss the Comic Book Men TV show, what happened in that episode. It was a lot of fun, and that part of Red Bank is really, really nice.
It's beautiful. I had my best grilled cheese sandwich, and this is how you know I'm a foodie, is I still remember that grilled cheese. It was pear and Gruyere.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And oh my God, it was at that little bar on the end, and it was the best grilled cheese sandwich I have ever had in my life. Ugh. I still remember it. It's been years.
We'll have to go back, hit up the Nintendo store.
With what money?
The
reasons
true.
I'm broke. But it was a great experience. I'm sad to see the show go because it holds so many memories for us sitting on the couch for hours watching it when we had time. You know, there were a bunch of great episodes, obviously my episode. So hopefully it gets picked up by another
network or Netflix or something.
I would love to see them get to their 100th episode. But I am, and this is, I don't mean this mean, but I am surprised it made it as far as it did.
That's what Kevin Smith was saying too. He said that every year on his Modcast, that every year he would expect like, okay, this is the last one and they're probably not going to renew us.
Right.
And he said that this is the first year in which he's like, oh, they're definitely going to renew us. I just had a heart attack. There's no way they don't renew us. And that's the one time they didn't renew them, unfortunately.
You know, this would be something really easy for Netflix to pick up or something and then just keep it going on there. I don't know how much it costs for a season, but they could do it.
Something that did get picked up though is you hadn't talked about it for 2 episodes now. And back then it's like, okay, it's over. It's not coming back. But now it is coming back. Lucifer has been saved by Netflix, according to Deadline.
Is Netflix like God, like Lucifer? I have saved you.
No, because Lucifer would probably spit in Netflix's face.
Yeah, he'd be like, no. So Fox canceled the series earlier this year before its 4th season, and then they teased us with those 2 little episodes that were leading into the 4th season, and then they dropped a bombshell on us in one of those episodes, and I was like, oh my God.
Are you happy? Is everything
so happy.
Good now?
Everything's not good, but I'm happy.
Things better?
Things are better. Yes, it's one of my favorite shows, and I'm so happy it's back because there's so much potential. It's such a good show, and I think it's perfect for Netflix. Now they can put raunchy things in it.
I didn't even think about that. They could actually go crazier with the new season.
It's already pretty raunchy.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the raunchiest thing yet in these 3 seasons?
Like Lucifer having handcuffed women in his bed and all that kind of stuff.
Well, they showed him like with different men and women in previous seasons.
Yeah, that was it. I don't need to see more. I don't really need to see Lucifer's butt or anything. I'm okay.
It's not like it's Nightwing or anything.
No. If it was Nightwing, I'd be like, come on, Netflix.
Otherwise, I'm not watching. But I am, just in case.
His ass or no deal.
We have a little bit of news here from HBO's Watchmen show.
You skipped too far ahead. There's been no release date for Lucifer. Okay, now you can move on.
At some point next year, probably.
Probably. I hope.
Jeremy Irons from Lion King, of course, Scar, and Alfred in Batman v Superman has been cast as an unnamed leading role in Watchmen.
There's no debut date for Watchmen yet. We still don't know if it's a remake. We still don't know if it's something brand new. Do we know if it's a remake or something brand new? It's something brand new, right?
It's like a mix of both. Okay. That's something we had discussed, but it's like we don't really know.
We don't know, but he's going to be awesome.
It's Jeremy Irons. He's amazing.
He's great.
What I knew him first was in, I believe it was Die Hard 2.
Really?
He was the villain in Die Hard 2. He plays Snape's brother.
Before Scar?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was before The Lion King.
What kind of movies did your parents like? Okay, whatever.
You know.
I do know. Movies our son will never watch.
Of course not. But the thing is, when I was a kid, and that's something that people are like, oh my God. And it's like, all right, I get it. But there was like 10 channels when I was a kid. Especially when there was no cable.
Okay, but
and so whatever you
did they
watched,
take you to in theaters?
Once they took me to the Jason Voorhees movie, which was like Jason Goes to Hell or whatever. But they thought that, like, their logic is he's too young, he won't remember it. Like, now as a parent, I'm like, no, I would never bring Leo to anything because I don't want to risk it. But my thing is like, fine, I concede that point. They shouldn't have taken me there. But for the Die Hard movies, there was 10 channels. You didn't have cable. There was one television per household. Whatever your parents were watching, that's what you were watching. And as long as it wasn't too crazy, and it didn't scar me. Like, I like Die Hard too. But that's what I know. Die Hard too. But that's what I know Jeremy Irons from.
I still would not let Leo watch that.
He fucks his Russian girlfriend near the end of the movie.
And you watched that?
It wasn't. There was no nudity.
There's so much explained. So much explained.
I'm really into Russian women.
What?
I don't know what you mean by that.
Like,
explain so much. I don't get it.
The kind of movies you watch. All this stuff.
So by that logic, then Leonardo will be a little brilliant film connoisseur.
Yes, he will.
If I show him these movies at a younger age.
He's already a brilliant child, but he doesn't need to see people fucking Russian women and whatever else. The Exorcist that you saw when you were 8 or something.
13.
Close enough.
Not close enough.
Terrifying.
It is terrifying. It still is.
Yes, I wasn't scared, but that's okay.
So for this month, let's head into, because it is the first episode of the month, what is new on Netflix for July 2018?
We have some great stuff coming out this month. First up is Finding Neverland. That's the one with Johnny Depp that I never saw.
As a reminder, these aren't just highlights. They relate to things that we've seen in the past. For the full list, just Google what's new on Netflix July 2018. But Finding Neverland was actually the movie in which little Charlie Bucket was cast in later on he played Willy Wonka in that Tim Burton version of the movie or of the book, I guess. And because of his performance in Finding Neverland, Johnny Depp pushed really hard for him to be Charlie Bucket in the remake to Willy Wonka, which he killed the role. He did a really good job.
Speaking of which, the kid who originally played Charlie way back when, did you know that was the only movie he ever acted in?
No, but I do believe that. That does happen pretty often with some...
he did it, and he was like, done. Same with the girl who played Matilda / the little girl from Mrs. Doubtfire. She retired after those two.
After Matilda?
Mm-hmm.
I thought she had appeared in some... I know now online she has like a YouTube channel, and she writes books.
Yes, but she retired after those. Just left.
Another one on the list is Happy Gilmore, which is an Adam Sandler movie I do enjoy.
Don't like it. I don't like
It's
Adam
got Bob
Sandler.
Barker.
I don't like Adam Sandler.
It's got Shooter McGavin.
Who?
Have you never seen this?
What about Eye Patch McGee? Is he in there? I crack myself up.
Apollo Creed plays his trainer in this.
I don't like Adam Sandler. We'll watch it, but I'll probably fall asleep, so whatever. Next up is Interview with the Vampire.
That one you pointed out to me.
Yes, I did. I enjoyed this the one time we watched it.
Mm-hmm. With Tom Cruise as Lestat, which Anne Rice had a fit over. She's like, what? The internet reaction that it would have had today if Interview with the Vampire had
Tom
released.
Cruise?
It doesn't make any fucking sense. He actually did fine. And she said, like, oh, after I saw him on set, like, all right. It's like, yeah, you should have fucking waited. Fucking Anne Rice, relax.
She kind of disappeared. Like, she was all anybody talked about for a while, and now, poof, gone.
Yeah, I know she's still doing, I believe, books in that universe, the Interview with the Vampire, because that's her biggest thing.
Of course.
And why not? But yeah, I don't think it's as popular as, and maybe it is. I don't know. I don't look at book sales, but you're not seeing new vampire movies.
Right.
Jurassic Park, Jurassic Park 2, and Jurassic Park 3 are all coming this month.
About time.
So you can watch the same T-Rex. We talked about it in theaters. We saw Jurassic World, actually, so might as well talk about it. Not very good. Not the second one. The second one kind of sucked.
It gave you what you wanted to see from a Jurassic Park movie. Stupid humans trying to take advantage of dinosaurs eating humans and fucking each other up.
Correct. It happens in this movie.
Yeah.
And this also had Jeff Goldblum very, very briefly in it.
If he had been in the whole thing, it would have been a much better movie.
Yet, how is Jurassic World 2 worse than 1? If it has the same type of things, the same type of elements, and it has Jeff Goldblum, how is it worse than the first?
Because we expected it to happen this time. It had been so long. Okay, so Jurassic Park 2 and Jurassic Park 3 are the same shit as the first one, right?
Yeah.
That's the same shit as every Jurassic Park movie, right? But because 2 came so soon after 1, or 3 came, whatever, you knew what was going to happen. You're like, yep, this is what we expect to see. Same with this one. This is what you expect to see. The big twist, nobody really cared about because they were kind of brand new characters, and there was like so much going on. The one we just saw recently, we probably wouldn't have really liked it if it was right on the heels of another one, but because our nostalgia was there when that like T-Rex came out and was like, meow, we were like, yes.
I always thought as a kid that in Jurassic Park 3, I believe, where they have like the long beaked fucking T-Rex looking thing that kills the T-Rex in the third one.
Yeah.
That I was like, oh, is that the T-Rex from the first movie that fucking dinosaur just killed? And that was what the movie was trying to say. Like, this is worse than a T-Rex because look, he just fucks up a T-Rex. And then it's in Jurassic World, they're like, no, the T-Rex is still the fucking shit. And even though the T-Rex doesn't really fuck up that other dinosaur, the Velociraptor hybrid thing, instead it's like that Allosaurus or whatever the crocodile thing is, the Deus Ex Machina of the Jurassic World movies.
And I loved him.
And it was great. And in this Jurassic World 2, the same exact T-Rex from the very first Jurassic Park is back yet again.
Saving humans.
Has like 2 or 3 moments where she saves the humans. It could be a he now because I don't know if you remember, but they changed.
Yes.
So very progressive too. I did like the millennials in Jurassic World 2. I was like, this stereotype is spot on. Perfect. Like the 2 running around, like whining and complaining and running around. Tattoos save the dinosaurs. I'm like, this is a movie. This is it right here. But there were a few things that I liked, but otherwise, I don't know. I don't know if I'll be there for Jurassic World 3. It's going to be tough.
I thought they were going to Jurassic Universe. If they put dinosaurs in space, I'm all about it. I'll be there. Like they're transporting the dinosaurs and the one gets loose and it turns into aliens, but with dinosaurs.
Well, we're going to get human dinosaur hybrids in Jurassic World 3.
Oh, yeah, that's what you said. No, I'm done.
So be ready for that.
I'm excited to go back and watch the first one, though. Show it to Leo. My brother started watching those at 2 years old, so Leo's right there. By the way, speaking of aliens, I'm getting off on another tangent. I had an aliens moment this weekend.
What happened?
I was laying on the floor, like, playing with Leo, and he's like, he's pulling himself up now, so he's standing over top of me, and he was like, and I was like, oh no, and then this, like, thing of drool came out, like, landed right on my face, and was like,
That's hilarious.
And it was great.
Continuing on this Netflix list, Lock Up Extended Stay Collection 1 is coming back on Netflix.
Who cares?
You get to see what jail is kind of like. Some of these jails are tamer than the others. Like in some of them, they don't care if you get raped. In some of them, they're like, no, there's rules against that. And when it happens, then they get in trouble. But in some of them, they're like, let it. So that's something I've learned with Lock Up. It's like, damn. And some of the stereotypes are addressed in here about the whole dropping the scope, and they're like, no, but people do get fucked.
Okay. Next on the list, we have Disney's Bolt, which is another who cares movie.
Agreed. I just know Alex really likes Bolt. He's strongly campaigning for Bolt to be in Kingdom of Hearts 3.
And next on the list, our final thing on the list. I have another thing I'm going to add to this list, but let's go ahead. This one. We have Orange is the New Black Season 6. We stopped watching about 4 seasons ago.
Only threw that in for those of you still watching.
So, who cares?
What is the thing you do care about?
Well, I was just going to say about this Orange is the New Black. For those of you who don't know, it is another jail thing where people get fucked. So,
very true.
The last thing I'm going to add, it's Anne with an E, Season 2.
What's that?
I didn't tell you about Anne with an E. I never finished season 1. So it's based off the Anne of Green Gables books, which was they turned it into a movie, and I loved it. It was fucking long movies. These movies were so long that it took 2 VHSs to watch
Just like
them.
Titanic.
Just like Titanic. So there were 3 different movies, and I loved them as a kid, and they're great. And it's about this redheaded girl way back in, I don't know when, living on a rural farm, and she's an orphan, and she's real weird, and she talks a lot, and people don't really like her because she's got red hair, and she's really weird, and she lives in books, and she doesn't care about God, and she gets adopted, or she goes to work for this family. It's a brother and a sister who are really old and never married and don't have any kids and need help. So she goes to help them around the farm, and they're like, you were supposed to be a boy. We're going to send you back. But they end up growing to love her and adopt her and raise her like their own child.
God bless them.
Yes. Anyway, I loved it. And somewhere in Canada, they started remaking it. It's a television series now. And each episode is an hour long. And she falls in love with the boy Gilbert Blythe, who I had the hugest crush on when I was younger. So I'm waiting for him to grow up to see if he's handsome, because if he's not, I'm writing off the show. So I never finished season 1 because I was heavily pregnant when I was watching it, and I'm sitting on like the bed sobbing through these episodes, right? And so I had to stop. And now they're coming out with season 2, which goes up on the 6th of this month. So I will have to finish season 1 and begin watching again.
Kelli's recommendations.
It was really good. I loved Anne with an E.
Hopefully it doesn't have the Twilight effect where you have a pictured person in mind and then you see who they cast and you're like, ugh.
Well, I mean, I've already seen everybody that they cast and it's fine. Anne is really gangly and weird, just like you would expect her to be. So
those are our Netflix highlights and the final news item for this week.
Yes.
Let's head into our Brocat block, which goes into what Kelli and I have been doing these past couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So Leonardo, our son, young little baby, I went to the beach for the first time.
He did. We had the opportunity to go stay at the beach. It felt like forever, for a few days. And we took him to the beach for the first time. He got to experience sand in the ocean and swimming in a pool.
He ate sand several times.
That's what you expect from a baby.
I guess so. I just expected like my son to learn after the first time, like, ugh, that's not nutrition. And he kept trying. I'm like, stop. That's enough.
It was, I mean, we could talk all day about the different stories we had there, the different things we got to see and experience. What was really cool for me, and all the parents out there will understand, this was the first extended period of time that I had off with him since my maternity leave. Mm-hmm. So like I took a 3-day weekend here, or 4 days here, things like that. But this was a while. And just to watch his development in that short period of time was amazing. So things that he wasn't doing, or things that he was doing by the end of the trip, he wasn't doing at the beginning.
Right.
So something he just started doing is he wants to eat off my plate. He won't eat baby food. If I'm eating it, I have to chop it up and put it in front of him. And then he picks it up and pops it in his mouth. And I was like, you weren't doing that last week. So little things like that. He's pulling himself up. He's going to be walking any day now.
He started dancing.
He started dancing all the time. Anytime you sing a little tune.
Any tune.
Yep. He's bopping, and, seeing him in the ocean and looking at that for the first time. For us, we're like, it's the sand, it's the beach. But for him, it was like, whoa, what is this? And so it was really cool. It was a great relaxing time. I just kind of forgot about days and took lots of naps, and we really enjoyed ourselves.
What's his favorite ocean animal? Probably his favorite animal now.
Oh, the seahorse. So we got to go to a little kids marine center. It was cheap. It was
like a rescue. Yeah.
And they had seahorses in a tank, and he was just like, pa, 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 hitting on that tank, and really enjoyed it and loved the seahorses. I was surprised he could see them because they blend in really well, but he could see the seahorses, and he got to see different birds, bald eagles and pelicans and all kinds of stuff.
He had a good time. Yeah,
he did. We had a great time. That's where we saw Jurassic World.
That's right. That's where we had time to watch a movie.
Yes.
I do want to watch Sicario 2. Mm-hmm. Really like the first one, but I don't know if you and I will get the chance to go together. So I'm debating, maybe I'll go by myself or with Bobby or someone if they want to see it. So I'm uncomfortable going to movies without you. It doesn't feel right.
That's sweet. Take the time that you have. There will be something I keep reminding myself of, is there will be some day when my child will be grown and no longer wants to spend all his time with me. So I am trying to enjoy those moments now. But I do still need time to myself. Because I'm crazy. I think I talked about this on the pod. I started going back to school.
I think you mentioned you were going to. Yeah, you have your first assignment now,
I do.
Right?
I have my first assignment, and I'm already anxious. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to fail.
You got to do it. Just do everything ahead of time.
I'm going to try. It's difficult. So, yeah.
That's good, though.
That's it. I'm transferring in my job. That's big in my life, too. So, that goes through next week.
And I'm getting ready for the 4th of July.
Yes.
The biggest 4th of July for comics. Batman, Catwoman wedding, Cosmic Ghost Rider #1, Catwoman #1, and Captain America #1 as well. So a lot of new #1s, and the biggest issue, of course, being the Batman, Catwoman wedding. So I'm really excited, and I'll probably talk about it next week. All of that out of the way, let's head into our thank yous for everyone that makes the show possible before we head into our comic book highlight for the week, and this is our Patreon shout-outs.
We have a whole bunch of shout outs this week. First one goes out to Alexander, whose Twitter handle is @swordfishshow, or you can go to purpleswordfish.com.
Takes you straight to his YouTube
straight
channel.
There.
He's been streaming Madden Weekend League challenges and Halo 5 Guardians matches as well. He's got a really nice following on YouTube. Every time, he streams, he's got, anywhere way more people watching than I ever probably will if I ever did some kind of YouTube thing. And he's got a nice community. He's got all kinds of like ongoing inside jokes that him and the fans and his viewers have been cultivating over, since the beginning, since he first started doing these different streams and YouTube videos. And all of that is very apparent when you go and you see him. He streams like nearly every day. Like I always commend them for going out there and streaming for, a couple hours, like every other night or so. And you can find them once again at purpleswordfish.com. He's also he's been listening to the show since the very beginning, since episode number 1.
I'm sorry.
And he's our very first Patreon backer too, on top of that. So thank you so much, Alex.
Next up, we have Lourdes and Katie. Katie is waiting on the Deathstroke Previews exclusive PVC statue. It's
been delayed for like a month and a half now. And the reason she wants the statue, it's maskless Slade Wilson. It's a previews exclusive. He's got the Deathstroke outfit, but he's got, the white hair and the eye patch and everything. You see Slade Wilson.
It's a thing of fan fiction dreams right there.
That's right.
Next up is Bobby, whose Twitter handle is @Cuban Slim.
He went on Epcot's The Three Caballeros boat ride for his very last time. For the replace it with fucking Coco.
Mama Coco.
Thank you so much, Bobby, for your support, and we hope you enjoyed the Three Caballeros ride, which actually has a show in the Philippines that they never brought over here, but it's a newer show, too. It's like within the last 2 years, they made a Three Caballeros cartoon, and it's like you show it in the Philippines, not in North America, where these characters are from. What's going on here?
Maybe it'll make its way over. Next up, we have Neil, whose Twitter handle is @inmats68.
He considered getting us a gag gift. Sent it over on Twitter, a picture of it. Joe Whedon, The Complete Companion Revised Edition book.
Aw, so you wanted to get us some firewood for the winter.
That was the true gift there.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Keeping me warm in the cold seasons. The cold 2 days that we have here in Florida.
I'm shocked that fucking book exists. Holy shit.
I'm not.
I'm glad Neil found it, though, because I wouldn't have believed him otherwise.
It's a bunch of crap out there. And finally, we have John, whose Twitter handle is John72Tex.
He wore his The Reasons I'm Broke premium quality themed t-shirt on his comic shop's live stream. So huge shout out to his comic shop, which is Bankston's Comics.
That's awesome. Thank you for the nod, for the shout out.
That's over in Texas. So any Brokehead Core members in Texas, be sure to visit Bankston's Comics and say hi to John, who again on Twitter is @John72Tex. He regularly actually wears a The Reasons I'm Broke t-shirt during his weekly new comic book day reviews and everything.
That's awesome. Thank you so much to all of our Patreon supporters for all of your help in helping us. That was a lot of helps in that sentence. But for helping us achieve our goals with the podcast.
And speaking of goals, if you too would like your shout out every single month, head on over to patreon.com/thereasonsimbroke. For as little as $1 a month, that equals out to 25 cents an episode. If you feel like you're getting 25 cents worth of entertainment, news, and laughters and palpakellis.
My voice.
That's right. Just head on over to thereasonsimbroke.com. There is a link at the very bottom, or patreon.com/thereasonsimbroke. We are $13 away from our next goal, which is a monthly giveaway for trade paperbacks and hardcovers. So we do those every 3, 4, 5 months. But if we hit this goal, we'll do one every single month, and it'll go out to our Patreon backers. So that there will also be a link to our Patreon in today's episode.
So for those of you who have been around for a few episodes, you know that for episode 300, we had a lot of great clips from our Brokettes. You guys sent in things. You recorded it through SpeakPipe, sent it on over to us, and we played it. Somebody was late to the party.
A little bit late.
So unfortunately, we had finished recording our episode by the time Bobby sent in his, but we don't want to leave him out, so we do have his clip here
Definitely
today.
Not going to exclude Bobby at all, and he gets his played today on episode 302.
Okay, this is Brokehead Cuban Slim checking in. That's at Cuban Slim on Twitter. And we have arrived. This is episode 300. So congratulations, not only to Daniel and Kelli, but to all our Brokettes. Congratulations on 300. We've gotten here. Daniel, Kelli, huge feat for you guys. I hope you enjoy this milestone. It's fantastic. It's been fun, and looking towards many more episodes in the future. For me personally, this is a good source of information because I'm super busy. Daniel, Kelli, I know you guys are busy as it is. So the amount of time and care that you put into doing this podcast every week, I mean, not only I appreciate it, but I'm sure there's plenty of Brokettes out there that enjoy listening to this information you push out and rely on it. Let's be honest. There's probably some people like me that rely on some of the information just because it's a source. And you guys put it out there in an awesome way. It's funny. It's entertaining. Also, new Brokettes, anyone on board here for the first time, welcome. And look back, pick a random episode in the past. I'm sure you will never be disappointed. Many more to come. Brokettes unite and celebrate.
Thank you so much, Bobby, for the kind words and for sending in your voicemail for celebrating episode number 300. And it's good to know that a lot of listeners do rely on it as a source of information, as a way to keep up with what is happening today in comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. And especially with the things that we have covered, which I think the listeners and ourselves are shaped by one another as far as what we talk about on the show and on the episodes. So I think as an extension, a lot of our interests as well reflect on what the Brokehead core also enjoy.
Because we tell them to enjoy it.
we strongly suggest it.
But no, of course, thank you, Bobby. Thank you to everyone who submitted a speak pipe for episode 300, and everyone who tunes in every single week. You know, the reason we do this show, kind of like we touched on, is for all of you. So thank you so much to all of our Patreon backers and all of our listeners.
And you don't have to wait for episode 3, 4, 500 to submit and be heard on the podcast. Head on over to speakpipe.com/thereasonsimBroke, and you can submit a question and we will answer it on the next episode. Question, comment, feedback, whatever it is.
And with that, we can move into our comic book highlight of the week, which is Batman number 49, the Best Man finale.
This is written by Tom King with art by Mikkel Janin and colors by June Chung. This is the issue right before the wedding.
How much of this can you talk about without spoiling it for me?
I'll keep it spoiler free.
Okay.
The reason normally Papa Kelli is in on the review and we do a spoiler review for it, but due to the vacation and due to the changes at work right now, and of course Leonardo, you didn't have a chance yet to go through.
I'm so behind in comics.
You're really behind on comics.
I'm very behind in comics. What time do I have in my day? There's no time.
It's a distribution of time. Like, I was able to get through them, but it is tough. But I will tell you that this is kind of to me, the biggest love in Batman's life.
Joker.
Aside from Alfred, aside from Damian
Superman.
Wayne, as far as families, and aside from Superman, is Talia al Ghul.
What?
But then behind her is Catwoman and the Joker.
Stop. This episode's done. Turn it off. Don't be talking about Talia. Don't bring her name into this house.
What happens to that disagreement? This is the Joker who says that he loves the Batman more than anyone and deserves Batman more than anyone because his existence relies on Batman's existence. And according to him, Batman needs the Joker, which you can argue that Batman will probably be okay without the Joker.
The Joker would not be okay without Batman,
correct,
but Batman would be okay without the Joker, yes.
So this is the two battling for Batman, essentially. And Joker does argue in this that Batman cannot be happy because then he's not Batman. And Catwoman is arguing that, no, he can, and that they fight. And most of it is actually... without spoiling it, most of it is them lying around talking. Like, it is actually most of that.
So like chick friends.
Pretty much, it kind of shows you that, and the whole time they still hate each other. So they're they work
chick
through
friends.
Their differences while still hating each other, as you mentioned, like chick friends, and it does come to a bit of I guess a big reveal or revelation near the very end of it. with what the outcome is between Catwoman versus the Joker over Batman stuff. And of course, you know that there's going to be a wedding next week. So obviously the Joker does not stop this from happening, but it does answer a lot of those questions of where does Catwoman stand on this clown that is constantly trying to ruin Batman's life, who she very much loves.
I can't wait. I'm so excited to read this after I finish doing the dishes and doing the laundry and doing school. If I have time.
And doing the podcast.
And doing the podcast. And taking care of our small child, who is a very unhappy man today.
I think you'll enjoy it. I think you will like it. I thought it was a little bit of a weaker issue because we do have the Harley Quinn and Joker Prelude tie-in, which I haven't read yet, but I thought that was going to be like the Joker issue because all of that has been leading to it. And they don't really address the Prelude stuff in this issue, so I was a little bit disappointed by that. But I guess until I read the final part to Prelude to the Wedding, I won't really know what the intention was for, Tim Seeley.
Tom King can do no wrong, so I'm sure it's great.
And with our comic book highlight this week, that does wrap up episode number 302 for Your Emperor and I.
That was a fun-filled, lots of things to talk about episode.
Good to be back after that short break.
Yeah, it is. I feel like I haven't been on this show in forever, but I guess it really hasn't been that long.
We're in the 300s now.
Yeah, we are. Oh, we're old.
And the Podcast Awards campaign is about to begin.
Yes.
So be ready to hear about that next week. And we'll see what happens with the Brocat Core this year and if we can nab another nomination for the 2018 Podcast Awards.
That would be amazing.
You will get a post on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, definitely on Patreon. So keep an eye on all of those networks for when the nomination period opens up, which should be probably near by the time this episode releases.
Ooh.
So thank you so much, Brocat Core members, for tuning in for episode number 302. As always, let us know what you thought of today's episode. Join us on Discord, Twitter, Facebook, everywhere you can find us. Do not forget, all will be well, Brocat Core.
Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next week.